on the shore, relentless in the war. The legions in our hearts, shed waters in our balls. The spirit and the flesh, the emotions that arrest. The cerebral will contest, propelling the unrest. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded. The teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand. Stand up, make we burn Babylon. Guess I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. With the semblance of a blaze, with gratitude and rage, we touch another page with delirious delight, impervious to light. This vitality and might encourages the flight. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded, the teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand. Stand up, make we burn Babylon. Guess I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Guess I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. The world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. In the den of iniquity, vicinity no pretty, calamity fi hit we any moment, what a pity. Tomorrow never certain, what was behind the curtain? The face of evil smirking, with that shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble, that either pop or topple. Many will fall and stumble, let the dozers gather rubble. From LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso, cannons could reach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make me get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come get it. I say, run, run, come, make me get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come get it. With the rubble steady rising, and hearts are compromising. Convictions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming, and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances, and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest, and the righteous in your corners. Are women lying? Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, are women lying to each other? For the sake of solidarity, for the sake of a narrative. Well, why ask such questions, you might say? Why ask
such questions. What does this have to do with the price of eggs in China? Why does this matter? Well, the question of human beings lying to themselves for solidarity, having a founding myth, or just going along to get along, is an age old story, right? It is something that we do. Is it not, Wallace? Is it not, Aaron B? Do we not have myths, stories about ourselves that help to forge our identity, our ethnic identity, national identity, family identity, my identity when we go with regards to sex, for example, gender, for example, and the stories associated with that. So it is a valid question. How dare you challenge the validity of our questioning? Okay. Speaking of questioning things, Jessica, you were mentioning that you question your willpower. Why is that? Or is that true?
Yes, it is. I have weak willpower. I'm not good when it comes to yeah, like controlling those urges, should I say. So I do have poor willpower.
Hmm. But when it comes to how about staying in shape and things like that, do you have to struggle with that, or are there areas in which, for example, because you're not a bum on the street, are you?
I hope not.
That's a positive attitude about it. You hope not. Are there parts of you that are, shall we say, more? What are the weaker sides and the stronger sides, or which part you would like to share about that?
In regards to willpower, I can
Yeah.
say if I put my mind to something, I can be very determined. So if I have a goal, and I say to myself, okay, I really want to get to a certain place, do a certain thing, have a certain thing, then yeah, my willpower can be really strong in that sense. But then I think when it comes more to the everyday mundane things, that's where my willpower sort of lacks. Um,
Hmm.
so you spoke about how you do one meal a day when it comes to yeah, just eating. I try to go vegetarian for a bit because I'm like, okay, let me do a little, health kick. I'm gonna go vegetarian, check out the benefits of it. I'm not kidding you. I lasted like a day or two,
A
and it
day.
wasn't even it wasn't even intentional. I think I ended up eating it, having having completely forgotten that I was meant to be doing this whole vegetarian thing. So it just
I see.
wasn't at the forefront of my mind. Whereas if I have that goal, it does stay at the forefront of my mind. And I think that's the difference.
It makes sense. It makes sense. You know the different. Obviously, do you know what your personality type is in terms of the MBTI? You know, Myers Briggs, the whole
I
stuff.
am an ENFP.
Ah, okay. So the intuition part there makes sense. All that stuff you just mentioned makes sense about the, you're more of a intuitive for sure, right? And you tend to be able to finish things perhaps, but you're not so much of a starter. And by starter, I mean, like you're gonna stick to it and just pick this thing, and you always do this thing, especially the simple, mundane stuff. But when it comes to flying up the sky and be like, I am Jessica X and I will take over the world, that's where your eyes are, huh? You're looking up there with that massive
um,
ego of
do you
yours.
know what? It's crazy because I am, because you say my massive ego. I am, I'm big picture. I'm
Mm,
big picture. So I'm very good at being able to create a vision and know where I want something to go. So the big picture, yeah, I can do that. Very creative in that sense. But when it comes to the smaller step, because to every big picture, there are many smaller steps that it takes to
mhm,
get there. And that's the part that I think I usually have a bit of oversight on. So I think it takes a different personality type. It's almost like, just think about if you're doing some sort of marketing, you have people who come up with the ideas and the concepts, and you're going to brainstorm, bring out lots of ideas. That would be me. And then you have the people that put that vision into, make it a reality, the actual practical steps. So yeah, I'm a big picture person.
I see. So, are you saying you work in marketing? Is that what you're saying?
No, I don't. And
Exposed.
I'm not an INFP. I'm an E for elephant, NFP.
Hmm. Extroverted, intuitive, feeler, prospector or slash perceiver, if you will. Ah, I see. So you're out here just floating around like a little fairy.
Probably, kind of, yeah.
Ah, makes sense. You seem to be a fairly grounded fairy floating around there, holding it down. I mean, hopefully, as you said, you're not a bum on the streets, right? Let's hope.
Hopefully.
Let's hope that's not the case. So let me ask you something. Do you, when it comes to going along to get along, because this is also part of the personality question, okay? And this is part of the topic as well. I just kind of thought about it because that F part makes it such that, fairness and everybody kind of, you're that person in the room smiling at everyone, making sure everyone is happy with their tacos and their seats, whatever it may be, right? So when it comes to going along to get along, because that's what this topic is really about, people lying to each other for solidarity, right? How do you tackle that? Have you found yourself in situations where you had to go along to get along, to toe the company line for the sake of keeping things together?
Do you know what? I think in things like when it comes to work, sometimes you are constricted in how against the grain you can
Mm,
be. Somewhere like YouTube, you have that freedom. You have
mhm,
the freedom to fully express your thoughts and your ideas and all of that stuff. But at work, it is really that is the go along to get along gang.
mm,
You can't really do much. So I'd say no. At work, it's all very just by the book, compliant. Yeah, just go along to get along. I think it's more maybe in my personal life, somewhere like YouTube, I can sort of go against the grain. I don't have to go along to get along. I can say what I really think.
Do you compartmentalize a lot?
Um, to a certain extent, yeah. I think I do because I compartmentalize my YouTube world, and then you've got personal life world, and then you have work world. You've got those three separate entities right there. And so, do you know what? People from my personal life would be able to recognize aspects of me in both. So they'd be able to recognize aspects of my personality when it comes to the YouTube world and the
Mm,
work world. But people from the work world probably wouldn't um, get my YouTube world. I think
mhm,
because I mainly, to be honest, I mainly keep personal opinions outside of work because it can cause trouble. It is go along to get along, and so you're friendly with everyone. You don't want to bring up anything that could be slightly provocative because that's when you can start to make enemies. People may not like your opinions, your views, and that can affect what you can do in the workplace. And so I tend to keep my personality out of work, and I'll be friendly. You ask basic questions, but nothing that's too deep.
mm, mhm. Shout out to, I believe that is Young Grump in the building. Thank you very much for the super chat. Let me see if I'm missing anything else. 299 says, my brother Ike is prolific 100%, says he. Rocky N also with the super chat. Thank you very much. What does Rocky N have to say? Round of applause there. The show about to be lit. It's about to be litty. It's gonna get litty with Ramil voice. Now, It's okay, so your YouTube personality, yeah, more akin to your real personality, you're saying, right? And you keep the work pristine. Now, how far outside the box have you gone, maybe at work or maybe was at college or something? You know, these areas where you decide that okay, maybe I'm going to keep it more pristine. Have you ever tried to push the boundaries, like say something that expresses a thought? Is this something you would even want to do, or are you more of the I like it just the way it is, and I'm not so perturbed by masks, if you will.
Yeah, I don't really have that desire to go out there and start, you know,
Keep it real.
yeah, and keeping it real. I actually don't have that desire at all. No. It
Hmm.
depends, because when we take it back to university, they're probably more of my real opinion, and I think people have always told me that I'm opinionated. You know,
Mm.
I'm very opinionated, and even even my ex used to tell me, you're so opinionated. You know, you have really strong opinions on certain things. So I do think I am opinionated. I do have a say on a lot of different issues. So
Hmm.
yeah, but it's not something that I have the desire to bring into work, because you can see um, how it can not always end well for people when you bring too much of your personality or your personal views into work. And other people can be, you know, you have I call them like the oversharers. So the people who are just spilling everything out there to you. But in general, I'm more of a private person. So I don't get too personal just in general, no. I think probably I'm the same on YouTube. I don't get too personal.
Hmm. I see. Okay, so let's because you've been we've been talking about work so far, right?
Hmm.
And it may be the case that you have to go along to get along. It may be the case that you have to keep certain opinions out. And when you sit down for dinner, you don't talk about politics and religion, those kinds of rules. Maybe it's
Yeah.
just etiquette. Okay, fine, let's do that. However, let's talk about some of these things that I called lies last time. I wanted to share some of them with you. One of them is that women want to work, and if I call that a lie, how does that sound to you? The lie that women want to work.
Okay. I won't personalize this one. I think overall it is a lie. It is a lie. Women ultimately want to be taken care of, you know? They want the luxury of being able to just do whatever they want to do, be taken care of. You know, it's the whole cliche of you just want to spend every day going to yoga, getting your nails done, having a massage, just lounging around, doing whatever you want. Most women ideally do want that lifestyle. They do.
Hmm. Now, that is interesting because I mean we do hear self-reporting, you know, in that regard. One may call it anecdotal, but also perhaps we have an intuition regarding human desires, right? We're all human after all. And one
Hmm.
thing is to say that anybody wants to work is already a questionable statement, is it not? I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean, oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, go ahead. Go ahead. Do you want to go to is the cubicle so exciting? The cubicle and the punching in or the whatever or the marketing flyers or is that what you want to do?
Not particularly. And here's the thing: that's why you have a welfare culture. It
Mm, mm,
highlights that part of human nature where, as long as you can get by, people don't really want to work. They want to be able to be free to go about whatever it is that they like to do. So I think
mm,
that that is an element of human nature where you don't really want to, but you feel like you have to participate to a certain standard in society. Um, so yeah, that's what it comes down to. If you want a certain lifestyle, you're going to have to work. If you want a decent lifestyle, I feel
mm,
like women are working because it's not necessarily that they want to work. It's that they can't either get the man that they in their mind feel is worthy of them being with, number
Mm-hmm.
one. So, it goes back to like the six-figure man. Unless you can get that six-figure man, you don't want to be with that guy. That's mainly why women are working, but also because it gives them a sense of power in today's society. So if you're okay living at a certain standard, you will just go along to get along. Like you said before, just coast by. But if you want power in society, women know that money is power. And so women are
Mm-hmm.
chasing power. Women are chasing careers where they work in order to get more money, get more power, and gain more leverage.
Mm-hmm. Good. So when one looks at the word work, one is suspicious, and then one says, what is behind the curtain? What do we get from work? Power, money, status is a important one. I think status is a nice little envelope that grabs all of those things that you mentioned. You mentioned
Mhm.
participating in the society like it was some kind of civic duty or something, and then also, but then you went to the power and the money. But there it can all be encapsulated with status. Okay. So really what we're saying and why it's a lie to say somebody wants to work is that it should be a series of several other statements such as women want status. Well, makes sense. Women want a place, a role in society that is valued by the marketplace. So
Mhm.
let me ask you this. Do women have a choice but to work? What else? In other words, let's say the woman was to tell you, say, hey, uh, forget the fact that I can't find the six-figure guy and all that kind of stuff. The thing is, my status thing, where am I going to get it? It's either I'm working or the alternative story is I'm barefoot and pregnant. In other words, there is not a lot of, shall we say, admiration for the other role. Maybe it's the older role, the traditional role, one you may say more closer to nature, or you could just call it housewife or something like that, something else, homemaker, whatever it may be, right? And there are also other economic realities, but let's not muddy the water up too much. There are economic realities that make it such that people need to work more. Um, but what if they say, "Hey, I have no other option"? Do they have any other option for the attainment of this status and power that they seek?
Um, so it goes back to it, and it does come back. It does come down to a status thing, and so if you're able to get a guy of a certain status, and then you're with him, you automatically, gain that status yourself. But then women are thinking, on the other hand, if I have to be with a guy that's, just take the average everyday guy, earning, 43,000 a year, I don't have that status. So I feel like some of them would rather chance it on their own and go and try and build that status themselves
Mm-hmm.
to get that power, to get that control, to get that status. So I think that's kind of the mindset that we're in, and that way, you're not held accountable to anybody. You're still just able to do whatever you want outside of work, of course.
Mm-hmm. So you think that it's a net positive, it would seem, because this person would say, "Hey, there was some kind of role with a status, maybe a mother in a home or something like that. But now it's not quite there anymore for the common man. Maybe it exists for the high earners, where, yeah, if I get that guy and I can just sit at home, it's nice. I still have status from his money. But for the regular guy, I don't have status unless I'm I need to bring it in the money, the power, the accessibility, the autonomy, the freedom. The economy is such that it cannot sustain this kind of only one person working. So I'm really in a quandary here, Joan, says she, right? I mean, uh, she's in a quandary. And what is work to you, for example? Like, how are you solving that problem? So why do you go to work? And is this what does it mean for you?
Because I have to participate in life. I have bills that need to be paid. I have a mortgage that has to be paid. I want to be able to afford myself certain things, and so I work. But also because of if I'm taking it back down to a personal thing, I know the kind of I know the kind of personality that I have, and I do like to keep my brain stimulated. I need that stimulation. I need some sort of intellectual stimulation, something that keeps me going. Otherwise, I'd be,
Mhm.
I wouldn't really be content. So I plan to work. That's something that people might find controversial, but yeah, I'd say I want to work. I want to work throughout my lifetime. If I didn't, I wouldn't have, you know, gone to university and got my degree. If I didn't have the intention to work, throughout my life.
So let me ask you this: if you didn't have to work, what job would you do? Right? Like, what is your therefore ideal job where it's not for money anymore? You get to, you're bagged the high value man, and he's paying for all kinds of things, including you pursuing your passion. What is that?
Either just continuing within the business field or maybe law. Yeah, so I'm still kind of in the ideal area that I want to be in.
Hmm. Maybe law. Maybe law. I don't know how many more years of law school do you have, Jessica?
I'm not in law school, and that's the thing. I think by the time I come out of school, I'd be 29, and then I'm thinking, it would. I actually did think about it for a little bit, but then I thought, no, I'm probably too old to do that now.
Mm-hmm.
It's too old to make that shift, you know, because it is an area that you have to work your way up in, and so if I'm going to graduate at 29, um, yeah, it's just I'm better
Hmm.
off just staying where I am.
I see. So, how do you think about this whole? Because you mentioned the time thing here, okay? And ladies and gentlemen, make sure you guys are smashing the like button, and I'm sure you guys are all subscribed to Jessica X. But the moderators, please go ahead and drop Jessica X's link as well. Maybe there's one stray person from a rare corner in the universe that has not heard of Jessica X. But anyways, you're talking about. Um, I like many things that you've mentioned. You talk about the participating in. It's very. It's are you a group person? Would you say you're a nice? I mean, I already asked this question before. Okay, in a different uh, guise when I was like, okay, go along to get along, not in a negative light, but are you have no suspicion of groups and group behavior generally speaking, or no?
It's I'm 50-50 on it because sometimes it's needed for the to achieve a greater goal. Sometimes that group work, the go along to get along, is needed simply to achieve that goal. Other times I feel like you do need to be able to have your own independent thought. And that's where I can separate work and then I have YouTube, because I'm able to stimulate both areas. At work, I can be go along to get along, but in my personal life and then on YouTube, I can still have that independent thought and that can still flourish. And I feel like
Mhm,
it's important to allow that side of yourself to flourish, to not
mhm.
become a sheep and just a cog in a bigger wheel, to actually have something that makes you unique, your own thoughts that aren't molded necessarily by somebody else. That to me is important.
You look at the situation, it seems, in real time, and you make decisions. You understand you're weighing the trade-offs and so on and so forth. What do you think about this? And then I'll read the super chat from Snuggles in the building. The whole time thing, you mentioned that, right? Well, I'll be 29, so on and so forth, right? Um, Maybe it's not true of every career, but if you want the whole family thing, um, there is an order that you can do it and then also still get the a career later of a particular kind that you may want, and you may even be well suited for that. Maybe you're like, hey, I'm 36-year-old Jessica, and I'm now going into law school. I'll be done in 2.5 years because I'm so smart. And then now I'm rocking it, and black don't crack, so people can't tell. So they still let me into the law firm, and I kick ass. How about that story? Is that a plausible story?
Not for me, no. No. No, I feel like it's too late in the game to uh, I want to say to pursue a dream, because we're going to be, it's never too late to pursue a dream.
Mm.
But for me, it's just too far down the line. Like in
Mm.
10 years time, that's a long way away, that's a long way away
How
before.
about the fact that people tend to change their career, especially in recent times? A lot of, the stats probably, right? That people do flip from one thing to the next, and it just tends to happen that way, regardless of your planning. So what I'm saying is, it doesn't look palatable, especially from your vantage point right now. But there is a fact that people do flip and flops 2 or 3 times through their career, and especially people who actually end up successful in something that they didn't necessarily start at, right?
Yeah, and I've had people tell me like, "What? Like you're still young. You still have so much time to, go and try different things and to actually find where you want to be in your career." And you're right. People are almost, moving from job to job. And I think for art for like my generation, maybe people in like their 30s all the way down, yeah, we switch jobs. Like before, people would typically just pick a career field and stay there, whereas we tend to experiment a bit more, and we move from different jobs, different fields, and find what we like before finally settling down. So yeah, there is that possibility, I suppose. There is.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, shout out to Snuggles. Snuggles is taking shots at you, Jessica X. Do you mind reading what Snuggles has to say? Thank you for the $5 super chat.
Snuggles says, sorry, let me flip my screen. Snuggle says, Jessica is really worried about buying a dog and dying alone. You are a westernized woman, Jessica. They have toys for sale that feels human-like. Oh, thank you, Snuggles. If you can tell me where you purchased your dog and where you purchased your human-like toys from, that would be very handy. Thank you, Snuggles.
Thank you very much, Snuggles, and thank you, Jessica, for reading that. Now, another thing is, there is a certain people are after, or shall we say, women, when they talk about these numbers, or a particular strain, right? Whatever strain of feminism that said barefoot and pregnant was the alternative to going out to work, right? And removed status from a particular side of things, such that now status can be gotten, the status, the power, the autonomy can be gotten from, the workplace. And women want status. It's insane for them not to want it. Okay. So, and they can't just get it by getting with some man now, because there's no real glory in that game anymore. So parity, equality is what the game is. It's like, okay, you have 50-50, so you have equal representation, right? So is it equal representation that is wanted, or is it just equal high status, or equal representation in high status things, right? And is equal representation even a good thing or desired? Like, in other words, just the idea that, oh, I'm going to look at every little corner, let's say it be education or careers or the C suite. And if I don't have equal representation, in this case 50% being women, then it is a bad thing. Is that even a good target to have? In other words, aren't there places where women maybe they don't want to go there? Are we trying
There,
to force women? So, anyways, I think I put a bunch on the table there, but go ahead. You got the mic.
there are definitely places women don't want to go. There are jobs women don't want to do. And if you're going to almost try and force a representation of women in there, what you're going to do is, one, the quality of whatever is produced in that area is going to drop. The morale in that area is not going to be where it needs to be. There are so many knock-on effects. Um, Give me a second. Sorry.
Indeed.
Yeah, it's not going to be where you want it to be. It's going to have economic impacts. It's, I think we need to stop this notion where everything has to be 50-50. Everything has to be equal. They've done studies, and this was a study that was done over decades, I feel. And I can't remember if it was Norway, Sweden,
Yeah.
one of those countries. It's
The
definitely a
Scandinavian
European
countries, yes.
country.
Yeah.
And they took away this whole, we have this notion of gender norms and gender roles, and society pushes certain things upon us. And so they actually stripped away all of the gender norms that society pushes onto us, and they just left it to, things to naturally take their course. Everything was neutral, and they found that women, or the girls, still went in a certain direction, and the boys and the men still went in a certain direction. So it's a part of us that's innate to just prefer different things, even coming down to the basic wiring of our brains and how our brains work. We prefer different things. So we need to stop forcing these things that just biologically we're not really made for onto each other.
Hmm. So parody is not what's sought after, the things we do not want to do, and also therefore, I mean, obviously, we're not looking for parity in the low end. It's about a status thing because I think that all through this conversation, as is the case, all through adult social interactions, what you're going to see is status being a major currency, right? So over here, you're looking for parity in high status places, not necessarily with the garbage men, but also you don't want the idea that you should have 50% women coders, 50% women structural engineers or mechanical engineers is just kind of silly. It's like maybe they don't want to do that. Maybe they'd rather go to biology, or maybe they'd rather be doctors, so on and so forth, as they tend to do, right? So
Mm-hmm.
what is with the lie, right? So you're in your office place and you're going along to get along, right? Because here's the thing about these kinds of lies that we tell each other is that nobody quite knows whom the original liar is. In other words, you, me, let's say it's four of us, okay? We're left in the boardroom, we're in the office together, right? Who is the agent there, right? Is there an agent? Is there someone who's like, oh, I'm watching you. You better not say the wrong things. You better stay politically correct, and so on and so forth. In other words, um, the idea, for example, that, oh, well, it should be parody. How come we just keep on saying those kinds of things? And any thoughts about that? Because it's almost like this psychological, we're putting ourselves in, it's a self-induced trance, and we repeat certain mantras and so on and so forth.
Okay, so I feel like it basically stems from feminism. Um, Feminism pushes equality, and that's why you see this whole 50-50 dynamic, equal representation. But what I don't think this is the key part that we miss is that women don't necessarily want equality to be able to do the same things that men are doing. Not necessarily, but women want equality in the sense that I want to be able to have the same status as you, Ike. I want to be able to wield the same amount of power that you do. So it's not about necessarily having to do the day in, day out, the mundane part of it, the interactions, all of that. It's about being able to wield the same amount of power as you, being able to have as much leverage as you, being able to have as much money as you. So it all comes down to power and status and control. So they want those aspects of it, not necessarily the everyday actions of it. And that's the difference. So when what we see in the workplace is this push to make women participate in the everyday actions of it. But women don't want that. They don't. They don't want to code. I don't want to code. I don't want to do it. you know
Mhm.
that's not me. But when you go and you look at some of the salaries that people in IT are making, sorry, I'd love to have that salary, but I don't. So I'd like the salary, but not the work that comes with the salary. So there's a difference there. That's where I feel like the disconnect is. So we're pushing it within the workplace because
Mhm.
it's it's the age of equality, but we're kind of getting what women are actually trying to seek through equality wrong, if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes perfect sense. Something happened recently that was that highlighted this whole kind of idea greatly. I was watching something on YouTube that was talking about cryptocurrency, right? You know, cryptocurrency, and as you may expect, both the developers and the investors and people who make YouTube channels about cryptocurrency are mainly what men, right? Just kind of you would probably, or are you surprised by that, Jessica? Let's ask that.
No.
Okay, you're not surprised by that. Great. Okay. And as I watched that, I thought back to a couple of months back when I was in a room, okay, with some people, and somebody started talking about cryptocurrency. Um, now, now, granted, they went a little bit too deep for mixed company. You know what I mean? There's certain kinds of people who don't know how deep into a subject to get. You know what I mean? Depending on the company. Uh, but the thing is, I noticed, okay, that the women that were there completely kind of lost interest, right? Now, not a surprise, right? I'm just an observant person. I'm just seeing that. And this was weeks prior to me hearing this thing. I'm like, yeah, women are showing me obviously that they're not into this crypto thing. But then when you see the video that I watched weeks later about how this is just another place where women are being kept out because of the bro culture of Silicon Valley, right? These two scenes don't jive, right? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's not. We're not being left out. I'll tell you personally, if I hear a conversation about crypto, I tune out. Okay. If I hear a conversation about sports, I tune out. If I hear a conversation about certain things, my brain is just, I'm not interested. I have no interest in it whatsoever. I have no interest in IT. I have no interest in any of those areas. It's not something that appeals to me. So the last thing that I want to be, and this isn't just me, this is the same for most women. Okay. We're just not interested in those things. So it's not a bro culture keeping us out. It's the fact that we're just not that interested. And it's like, don't push it on me because I don't want it either. I don't.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay.
And women know that they don't want it. They just use things like that in order to be able to gain power.
Okay. And let me go ahead and mention something again, which is just one layer above what we're talking about right now is the anthropological fact that people are herd animals. Okay. And it is a question of survival. It goes that deep, right? And we don't care about things such as truth. Okay. We care about it, but there is a totem pole of cares, obviously, right? But
Hmm.
survival is way, way, way higher than truth, just for truth's sake, right? So if truth and survival line up, great. But if if survival is paramount and truth will be in the way, blah, 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 with all those kinds of things, we put it to the wayside. In other words, so telling a story to each other so that we can, for solidarity, because solidarity and group cohesion is very tied to our biological urge for survival, right? We need to survive in that herd way, right? So our ability to go about just telling each other lies, even if the lies are leading us off a cliff, as long as we are all walking together off that cliff, we actually sometimes feel safer. It's
Yeah,
like,
you feel better.
yeah, you're like, at least everyone's going off the cliff. At least everyone is thinking that this is what's going to lead to my happiness if I go here. At least these kinds of things that we repeat these lies to ourselves. Uh, as I mentioned before, all the way from founding myths to go along to get along. This is a anthropological fact. Now, there is something about supporting each other. Okay, do women support each other in the workplace? Because I found that to be another um, lie or controversial statement to make. Are women supportive? Now, you can speak in generalities, you can speak anecdotally, you can talk from your intuition. Go ahead, take it.
I think women tend to support each other when it comes to the things that most negatively impact them. However, when it comes to actual success or actually getting something valuable, women don't support each other. Women are actually very competitive. It's almost human nature to be competitive. So I don't know why we leave out this competitive nature of females and act like, yeah, it's the sisterhood, we're all for the betterment of each other. No, women are just as competitive. So let there be something valuable on the line, and you'll start to see that the sisterhood doesn't really exist. Women will backstab each other very quickly, but then let it be something that's not necessarily to the betterment of women, something that just helps them. Usually with women it comes down to feelings, something that makes them feel a bit better in the moment. Then they're quick to tell each other a lie.
Hmm. Makes sense. Now, I've always just out of curiosity, because I've always been interested in that particular complex there. It's not a maybe a complex is not the best word for it, but the we all have feelings, and we all want the feelings to feel good. However, there is what is that preference like when you're like, I'd rather you just tell me something to feel good, even though you and I both know it's a lie, but this is not the time for truth. Like, what does that feel like? Because I don't experience that thing, even though I experience other ways in which I want my feelings to, my feelings are fighting against the truth all the time, generally speaking. But there is no, from a social standpoint, hey, you over there, you need to tell me a lie, even though we both lying, but just so that I feel good. What does that feel
It's
like?
it's like a verbal or an emotional hug. An emotional hug and caress. That's
Oh.
essentially what it is. It's soothing. It's meant to soothe you and alleviate any negative feelings that you're having in that moment. So that's why it's done. It's meant to soothe. So yeah, you can look at it as a hug or a caress. That's what it feels like. That's what it is.
Oh. Hmm. That is yes, like okay. Then it kind of makes sense. It kind of makes sense. I guess I have truth bias, and I need to calm down with my, you know, because also it is also true that we don't care much about truth. So I need to be more loose, right? With all this. Isn't that what would you recommend, Jessica X? How do you live
I
your life? Are you more kind of laissez-faire, loosey goosey? I mean, you are an ENFP after all. Go ahead.
No, I actually prefer truth. I
Mm,
prefer truth because I feel like that's how I get better. Or I wouldn't want someone to coddle me if I'm going in the wrong direction. I mean, what
mm,
what good is that going to do for me in the long term? So yeah, I'm more long term as opposed to short term, and I think that goes back to what I was saying in the beginning, in that I'm very big picture. I'm
mhm,
big picture, so I'm always looking at the end goal. I'm always looking at how everything is going to turn out.
mhm,
If you're a short term person, then you might want your feelings to be, caressed in the short term, just because you're
mm,
thinking about that initial that moment. Okay, we're living in the moment, and this is how I feel right now, and I need to get rid of this feeling. But it's almost like people are lacking the foresight that negative emotion that somebody needs to caress me, and and that emotion that somebody needs to alleviate is going to keep popping up again and again and again, and I'm going to need somebody to come and hug me again and again and again, to get rid of it. Whereas if somebody just gives me the truth and I know where I've gone wrong, that negative feeling completely disappears. And then I don't need a hug every couple of days to make it go away. I'm good? So I'd
mhm.
rather have the truth rather than to be told a sweet lie.
Yes, and you said that, and K Polymath there also is saying, because it is in line with what you just said, the ENFJ rather than the ENFP. If or well, maybe it doesn't really matter that much, but I think that you do make these judgments, and you do care about them, right?
Possibly. I don't know. I don't quite know the difference between the two, if I'm honest. I just know what it gave me.
Indeed. You did an online test or something like that?
Yeah, the Myers-Briggs. Yeah, I did it online.
Yeah, I've done a couple online too, and it's I've heard that it's not, well, the online ones are not so good. If you are interested in, looking further into this particular aspect, there are people whom you can get to kind of like do a type test for you on you. It's
Okay.
not going to be so far off from the online one, but these things such as P versus J and certain other things might be more clearly seen by someone else asking you questions and seeing how you respond and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Again, we are talking about the lies that are out there, and one of them that I think that comes up over and over again. What do you think about the right to work? I always found it funny that people talk about the right to work. Um, do you think women had to earn the right to work?
Did they have to earn it?
Weren't women always working? Is it not a
I think honestly it depends who you ask. Because some people are going to say women have always worked, and then other people are going to say no, women haven't always worked. I think we can safely say that there might have been a group of women who have been working for a while, but for the most part, most women weren't actively working like that previously. No.
hmm So
I,
when if we just if go ahead.
I don't necessarily see women working as a bad thing.
hmm
I don't, and here's why. People will sometimes, if I say I want to work, it's like feminist, get in the kitchen now. And I'm like, no. If I'm looking at it on, how could I put it? Like, basically, it comes down to a monetary thing. Um, Two incomes are better than one. If we have two incomes, we can afford more for our children. We can afford a better life. We can invest more. We can build more. And I feel like that is going to be for the majority of people. So, women having the ability to work, it affords us a better lifestyle. It affords us to be able to do more. And I spoke to somebody and they said that basically, women coming into the workforce lowered the wages of the men who were already there. And if women completely disappeared from the workforce, then men's salaries would go up. But when I went back and I looked at um, the how salaries had changed, it
hmm
didn't reflect what they said. So I think women working hasn't necessarily impacted men's salaries, but it has boosted the economy, and it does allow for, if just say we're taking the average everyday person, instead of you living off 43,000, you get to live off 70 something thousand. You're going to be able
That's
to
sweet
have a
cash. That's
better
sweet cash.
lifestyle.
Yeah, I get you. Everybody likes that sweet cash, right? I mean, that is you don't have to give too much you don't have to advocate too vigorously. You could just say cash, and
No, not
talking like,
even free cash. You work for it. You
oh,
you
no,
you
no, no,
work
no,
for it.
no, no,
Both of
no,
you
no,
work.
no, I said sweet cash. Or did I say free? Oh,
Oh,
my bad.
okay.
Yeah, I meant to say sweet if I did say free. But sweet cash is important. Um However, there's something. Let's get in. Let's talk intuitive to intuitive here. Forget these constructs and let's talk about work. Right?
Hmm.
Right. Work is work. Right? Meaning we have to survive. Ever since we left the Garden of Eden. Right? So whether it be taking care of whether it be hunting and gathering, right, or taking care of the home and the yard and a small farm versus somebody who sells it, because some societies is more like the men do the farming and then women do the selling in the market, or vice versa, right? Men do the dangerous fishing, women do, but in other words, women have, I don't know of a society right, uh going back in of these different kind of, I talk hunter gatherer, I talk this, I talk that, right, where women were not working, right? Just work, right? Because otherwise, you'd be just half of the population not doing anything. I mean, that's kind of crazy. Obviously, we need work done. Um, so, what do you have to say about that premise so far. In other words, I'm stripping certain things away and say, transtemporally through history and so on and so forth, and just looking at the word work. Women have always had to work, right?
They've always had roles, yes. They've always had roles that they have to fulfill. So you can look at it as work in a sense. Yes, I think essentially it is work. Just maybe
Yeah.
not work that we'd typically associate it with today, but if you're having roles that you have to fulfill, that's work.
Yeah, I'm sure gathering could still be like I could see gathering on a website today. Now hiring gatherers, need to pick 70 berries per hour or something like that. I don't know. If that's the thing, or also it's kind of domestic work, which we hire people to do, or everything from babysitting to, cleaning and so on and so forth, right? And that is actual work with a real work description in the economy today, right?
Mm-hmm. True. Yeah.
And the thing about it is the contribution of what, all that stuff that women were doing, right? And the fact that it was not called work as part of the economy, right? For certain for just for reasons of keeping certain numbers and so on, so just for accounting reasons, right? It's like, if you're looking at, okay, this is the household of the X, this is the X household, and we live in the 1800s, right? And the X business brings in $250 a year. I'm not going to count the fact that the woman also does all this work, right, to keep the house and the family and all these other things going. You don't add that. It's just $250 a year, you know. So the economic contributions of women in that regard, or the economic contributions of a whole sector, shall we say, the home sector, the whole whatever that whole thing that they were doing, which we agreed they've always been doing, was not counted, and it led in certain ways it may have led to the idea that now we look at things in a lopsided way, where it's like we don't value those things anymore. Like I just said, we'd rather leave the house to go work so we could pay somebody else to come do that kind of stuff, as long as we have cheap labor. We have cheap labor, Mexicans to come watch our kids, whatever it may be. Now, I did say a mouthful there, but just basically the idea that there's economic contribution based on all these work, all these roles that you said, and it was not counted because it was never in the ledger, in the accounts, and so on and so forth, and not measuring the economy, that it gives us a wrong picture of what's been going on here, does it not?
Yeah, I get you. And I feel even up until today, I think it's important for both men and women not to diminish each other's roles. Because what you find on you, you find women and men almost competing to say who's doing more. You'll have some men say, I have to go out and work. All you have to do is just sit at home and look after the kids and clean and cook. I'm out here breaking my back. And then you have the woman that says, well, do you know what? I'd love to be able to go out there and, go out and socialize and work every day. And you stay here and look after the children. And it's almost like diminishing what each other does. I think both roles are equally important in keeping society together and keeping society going. So if you have a woman that is playing that role, you have to appreciate her for it.
Mm-hmm.
Just like if you have a guy who is doing what he needs to do and is providing for the family, you're stable, you appreciate him for that. I feel like both individual roles need appreciation, and we don't need to diminish one or the other, because if you diminish the role of a housewife, then she's gonna say, okay, if you're saying what I'm doing is lesser than yours, lesser than you, I want to go out there and do what you're doing. You told me
Mm-hmm.
that I was less, now let me be on your level. So it can actually push women to go that other way and start competing with you in the workplace. And that competitive energy, we both have our different roles, and I think we should just appreciate each other for that.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to Snuggles in the building, says, I want you all to educate us on man's role. Woman's role. Interesting. So it's apropos. You're talking about the roles and they have to be respected and so on and so forth. Like, okay. Now, I like to think fundamentally. Okay. That's kind of, I'm INTJ, right? So the thinking is key. The intuitive thinking is key. Like, so you get the intuition thing, you like to fly up in there in your head as the queen of the universe. So you understand that part at least. And then also with the thinking thing, and in thinking about the roles, for example, it is it has always been very clear to me that, hey, if you're gonna, let's say you're married to a woman, she gets pregnant, right? In the house, there's a whole kind of, or she gets pregnant, there's a whole kind of job in and of itself just to be pregnant, right? It's almost like there's a, okay, well, you're taking one for the team, right? Hence, in other words, I don't understand the idea of not seeing it, because I tend to look at things in terms of, well, how do things work? And in a partnership, what are you bringing to the table? Obviously, something so clearly uh, distinct from what I'm bringing to the table in this particular case, right? Where it's like childbirth, very clearly demarcated between the two. Then it's like, well, that's what you're taking for the team. And if you're going to sit home while you're pregnant, and so that you can be in comfort, okay, and not worry about this, that, or the other. And of course, you can participate in whatever you may want. Why is that such a bad thing? It's, I mean, are you getting what I'm saying here, in that sense that it's almost it's almost a given. It's like, this is the role that this person is playing, especially within this 9-month period. And if they're going to do that over and over again, then it's like, well, why should it be crazy that this person should be kind of kept outside of the field? You know?
No, I think it's natural to almost have that. In a sense, it's natural that, okay, this person is pregnant. You protect the new life that's coming into the world, so you kind of stay out of harm's way, society's way, and I don't know, I don't want to use the word incubate, but you go through the process. I think that's natural in a way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So here's a scenario. Okay, let's go back to the workplace. Okay. And let me know. I know it's late over there. I'm not gonna keep you much longer. All right. And thanks again for doing this. Um, I got a couple of quick fire round, let's say. Okay, a couple of questions to ask you. Let's go back to the workplace. Okay, there is a quandary, okay, because this is true. No status in the home anymore. It's only kind of available in certain kinds of classes slash cultural type situations, right? But writ large, where is a woman going to find her status? And a woman needs status, okay? A woman is a social creature, so on and so forth. She needs to know that her role is given a certain amount of gravitas, a certain amount of appreciation, a certain amount of status by the social group. It can't just be status, right? That one person tells you, right? Jessica, if Jessica just said, if somebody just tells you, hey, but I value your housewifery, right? That's not enough. It has to be from the society, right?
Yeah, and I think society has made a push away from just that traditional role, and it said that the traditional role is lesser than the modern role. So it's almost programming in a way. It's programming. But you have to, I think, if you actually get in tune with nature, not to sound corny, but get in tune with your inner nature, and that usually is going to lead you to what your natural role is. And you can gain a satisfaction in that. You can gain a status through that. It's just a different kind of status, and not everything is going to be the same. I don't always expect the same status as you. If I'm not doing what you're doing, why would I get the same status that you have? I'd have a different type because I'm doing something else. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that's the mindset that maybe needs to shift, that I need to be recognized exactly as you're recognized, but we're doing two different things. We can gain our own sort of status. And that's what it was. Okay. If you think you have men who climb the career ladder and they're able to gain a certain status from that. You accumulate money, power, you get status. Women would gain their status from, the sort of man that they could get and who they're with in society. They'd gain their status that way, and who they have a family with. So you were still gaining status, just in a different way. But now women are trying to chase men's status, and everything's a bit jumbled up.
Indeed. Shout out to Sick Lid. And let me ask you, let's bring the plane back down. And You are the master of extroverted feeling. That's FE. That's a cognitive function in terms of your ENFJness or ENFPness. Funny. Uh, the idea of a group back to work now, okay, where there's a boys club, right? Why is it a boys club? Well, because let's say it's engineering, right? Or something like that. And the people who work there are guys, right? So it's nothing special about the boys club. It's just co-workers, right? And if you remember long, long ago, before the virus that shall never be named, we used to hang out with coworkers, right? And there was the whole group text aspect of things, and also the maybe go out for a beer at the pub, uh, as you guys call it over there, and have a drink, have a pint, if you will. Now, when Sarah, a young female engineer, right, wants to join the boys' club, how does she navigate the fact that she now has to get into, which, by the way, the boys don't mind. Okay. So, in your experience, Jessica X, have boys tried to keep you out of the work crew or any kind of a crew, the class crew, or have they been like, "Oh no, no girls," or what? Let us know.
Not really. I mean, there's certain aspects of the boys' club that I don't want to be a part of anyway, you know. So I just sort of know my place in that. I don't want to participate in certain aspects of the boys' club. I don't, because it's the boys' club. You know, they're doing boy things, and so I kind of remove myself from that.
I see.
I
I
think
see.
it's you know the area that you're going into, and you can't try and shift the whole energy of the area that you're going into for your own benefit. If I'm going into an area that is, I work in a male dominated area. If I go into a room of 99 men, I can't go in there and try and, you know, make them talk about makeup and nail polish and dresses, you know. It's just not going to work. I know where I'm going into. They're going to talk about their guy things. If I don't want to participate, then I just remove myself.
Okay. Is this something that you would advise other women? Because let's say, okay, Jessica X, you find your guy, you're married now, okay, but you're still working because that's kind of it makes sense, right? Two people can work and work things out together. It tends to be more of the case that these days human beings have to be more of the philosopher kings of their own domain because we don't have the scaffolding of cultural norms and so on and so forth to kind of hold us. But yeah, you found your guy, you both are working, okay? But there is here comes Sarah, right? Remember Sarah? She likes to get in the boys' club. Okay. Now she's in the boys' club in your husband's crew, and she's in there in the text. And when your husband says, "Hey, you know what? Want to have a beer with the boys after work?" Sarah's there as well. How do you feel about this, Jessica? Because this is a real situation. Okay, there are women, working women all over the world, right? Some want to get in the boys' club, some maybe not, but they're all married to these other boys. You get the picture. Any final comment on this situation? How does one navigate stuff? Are you going to be pissed at Sarah? Okay, what to do with Sarah? And is it your husband's fault? You're going to start blaming him like, how come you're allowed? It's like it's just a club. Like co-workers like to hang out. What's to be done?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, what's the big deal? Like, are you talking about an affair or something?
It's not an affair. Okay, but here's the thing. Okay, when people work, let's say it's engineering or it's law or something like that, they actually spend a lot of a lot of time together, intense hours and so on and so forth. And so they may have like a group text for let's say it's the design group. Okay, the design group has a group text because they like each other, they work together, they send memes to each other. That's one level of relationship. Maybe they then hang out also after work or something. Maybe they be a once a year shipping trip that they organize just because, right? Because they're friends at this law firm, at this engineering school, so on and so forth. But Sarah is one of them. It's not just the
Yeah.
boys. There's Sarah's, there's Julie's, there's all these things now. There's the intermingling. What is to be done by Jessica X when Sarah is sending, smiley faces to her husband?
It's not a big deal to me. I'm not a
Ah,
jealous person, so to
ah,
me it's not a big deal. I think it's just an aspect of work. You're going to have to integrate with different people, so I don't see the big deal, to be honest.
I see. Okay, well, as I had mentioned, that is the final statement from Jessica X, ladies and gentlemen. I think that we had a fruitful conversation here about the lies, the lies, the lies. The fact that we tell lies for solidarity is absolutely ubiquitous all through different aspects of history and through different aspects of our life. We tell stories about our founding myth. My people were founded by the sky gods, and we tell that story. We are this particular kind of tribe, and we have to have an identity, maybe the oppressor identity or maybe the oppressed identity, and then we tell those lies. We tell lies about all kinds of things all the time, and we avoid the basic truths, because the basic truth is Sarah is trying to get in the boys club, and Jessica may be magnanimous and gracious and say, Sarah is fine. But as I'm sure you know, Jessica, not every woman is going to be like you. It's going to cause problems. As we know, it tends to cause problems with these work husband situations, and work wife situations tend to cause a lot of grief. So while the claim that, hey, I can't get in the boys club is a valid claim, the reality of actually getting in the boys club and what that will do, and while you are somebody, let's say you are Jane, okay, Jane is trying to get in the boys club in her work while simultaneously keeping Sarah from getting in the boys club in her work because her husband is there. Jane is protecting her husband and cock blocking Sarah. And these are the realities that we need to talk about, rather than all these, shall we say, theoretical and political statements. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Thank you to Jessica X again. Thanks for doing this. And thanks for the super chatters, Sick Lid, and the rest of them, for those who participated silently in the chat. And I don't know, what does Game Changer say at the end of his streams? He kind of goes through this counting of the different people. Thank you for the Cash Appers and for the this and the that. Panel of judges and the co-debaters. Shout out, ladies and gentlemen. We are out.
In the den of iniquity, vicinity no pretty, calamity fi hit we any moment, what a pity. Tomorrow never certain, what was behind the curtain, the face of evil lurking with the shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble, that either pop or topple, many will fall and stumble, let the dozers gather rubble. From LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso, cannons could reach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. I say, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come get it. I say, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come get it. With the rubble steady rising, and hearts are compromising. Convictions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming, and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these your circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances, and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest, and the righteous in your corners.